If there are any Manchester City fans watching this video, head down to the comments and answer me this question. How does it feel? How does it feel knowing that your team is going for a 5th consecutive Premier League title? How does it feel knowing that you have won each of the last 4 Premier League titles? How does it feel knowing that you have recently won the treble? You are almost guaranteed a piece of silverware every single season. Does it get boring? Do you value it every time that it happens? How does it feel? Premier League is well and truly back, and City could be facing their toughest test in a long time as we head into the 2024-25 campaign. And it is that time of year where we predict what the Premier League table is going to look like come May next year. So the basis of today's video is we are going to go from 20th place in the Premier League all the way up to the top, and we are going to talk about who I think is going to finish where, who the underdogs are going to be, who is going to win the Golden Boot, who is going to be the league's best goalkeeper as well. There is so much to discuss in this video and I want to crack straight on with it. So we are starting right at the very bottom. Who is going to finish dead last in the Premier League this season? Is there going to be a repeat of the horrid season that Sheffield United had last season? Are we going to see all 3 promoted teams head straight back down to the Championship? Well, to give you a clue, the 20th place team for me this season are going to be Southampton. Yet the Saints, who have just come up via the playoffs in the Championship, I do think they are going to struggle purely just because I don't think they've recruited incredibly well. I think they've brought Adam Lallana springs to mind. I think Ben Brereton Diaz has signed for them after doing that 1-year loan spell at Sheffield United, has joined them permanently from Villarreal, so that will be a good move for him, and they do have a bit of firepower up top. For me, having had a look at their squad, I do think that they're going to struggle, and just a personal pick, they're going to be my bottom place team in the Premier League this season. Now at 19th, I have newly promoted once again, and it is going to be the Tractor Boys, Ipswich Town. I actually want to see Ipswich do quite well this season. I have a bit of a Luton Town feeling towards them. They seem to be the underdogs. Nobody's really given them a chance in hell of staying up, so I would love to see them defy the odds and essentially just get some really big wins under their belt. I mean, back-to-back promotions under Kieran McKenna is an insane achievement, especially going from League One all the way up to the Premier League, but I feel like this one might be a step too far. I think the sort of 3 big money signings that they have made so far in Amari Hutchinson, in Jacob Greaves and in Liam Delap will do relatively okay for them, but realistically, are they quality players that are going to keep them in the top division? I'm not entirely sure, so for that reason I am going to put Ipswich, unfortunately, in 19th place. In 18th, we are going to go for Nottingham Forest, so I'm not going to predict the full house of 3 promoted teams going back down. We are going for Nottingham Forest this time around. Nuno Espirito Santo in charge doesn't necessarily play the best football. Yes, okay, they've got some very good players in the likes of Morgan Gibbs-White, Taiwo Awoniyi as well. Elliot Anderson, of course, was that big midfield name that they've brought in from Newcastle, and then you've got Mikalenkovic, who I think was linked with Tottenham a few seasons ago. So it's not necessarily the worst business in the world, but I think they rode their luck a little bit at times last season, albeit they did have that points deduction. I just feel like personally it's going to be a bit of a step too far this year. At 17, we have Leicester City. I have taken one look at their squad and I just feel like it's not that great. They still have a lot of the players that went down with them into the Championship originally last season. You know, they got likes of Harry Winks playing for them as well. But having just lost Enzo Maresca as their head coach and their best player in Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, I just feel like it's a bit of an uphill battle, and maybe acclimatising back to the Premier League may be a bit of a challenge. Moving on to 16th, then we have got Brentford. Ivan Toney is perhaps unsettling things a little bit by still being there, but with the injury to Igor Thiago as well, I do feel like it is just going to be a bit of a weird one, especially up top for them. Yes, they've got the likes of Yohan Wissa, Brian Mbeumo. Will they both still be there by the end of the summer transfer window? Who knows? I don't think they'll go down, but I just think it's going to be a bit of a mediocre season for them. At 15th, we have got Wolves. Gary O'Neill has just signed a new 4-year contract, along with all of his back staff, to stay at Molineux for another 4 years. However, having lost Pedro Neto, who, okay, I hold my hands up and say may only play 10 or 15 games a season because of his injury-prone issues, I think that it will be an okay season for them, but I don't think they're going to get anywhere near that top half. Of course, they have still got the likes of Hwang Hee-chan as well to lead their line. There's Cunha as well, of course, is an excellent player. However, I just feel like with the increased competition, some of the players these other teams around them are signing this summer, it's going to be a 15th place finish for them. At 14th, we have got Everton, their last season in Goodison Park before they move into their new stadium. The fans just don't have a clue what's going on. The ownership is so unclear. The takeover talks are so unclear. Sean Dyche, I don't think Everton, if Sean Dyche stayed in charge of Everton for the next 10 years, barring any more points deductions, I don't think they'd get relegated in a single one of those seasons, such as his expertise in keeping teams like Everton in the Premier League. So I think they'll be absolutely fine. But they haven't really done anything significant in the transfer market. They've lost Amadou Onana, their best midfielder. I don't necessarily think that they are a stronger team than what they were last season. It was relatively comfortable for them in the end. If you take away the 6-point deduction that they have as well, it was absolutely fine. So in that case, Sean Dyche and Everton, they'll do their business, and I'm going to go for a 14th place finish for them. In 13th, we have got Bournemouth. Now, if Dominic Solanke hadn't have just joined Tottenham, I probably would have put them a bit higher. I think the ownership and the investment into Bournemouth at the moment through the likes of Michael B. Jordan makes it a really exciting time for them and fans of the South Coast club. I think a lot of their positioning this season will be dependent on who they do bring in to replace Solanke. I'd be excited to see the likes of Alex Scott more this season as well. He's someone I wanted at Tottenham a couple of seasons ago. So, yeah, I think, as they usually do, Bournemouth, they'll pull off a couple of really, really good results against some really good teams. However, will they have that consistency to mount a top half sort of finish? I'm not entirely sure, and for that reason, they're in 13th for me. At 12, we have got Fulham. We are moving into sort of the dark horses to break into that top 10 now, and at 12th, I have gone with Fulham. They are doing some excellent business, along with the clubs above them that we will come to this summer. I think Emil Smith-Rowe is going to be like a Cole Palmer to Chelsea for Fulham. I think he is going to absolutely thrive there, providing he can stay injury-free. Ryan Sessegnon is also back at the club. He left Spurs as a free agent in the summer, and he has returned to the club where he made a name for himself, so I'm really looking forward to seeing him hopefully back to his best in that case. But yeah, I've gone 12th for Fulham. Moving on to 11th, we have got Brighton. Now, although they have lost Roberto De Zerbi and they have lost a couple of their players, I had to do a little bit of research behind Brighton just to see who some of these players were that have come in, because I initially had them really low down in my prediction list, but I'm actually changing my mind a little bit. You've got the likes of Mats Weifer come in from Feyenoord, who's an excellent midfielder to replace Pascal Gross. So that'll be interesting to see how that lines up. Yeah, you've got Brian Gruder as well, a winger who's just joining the club, who a lot of big European clubs were linked with. So yeah, fair play to Brighton for getting that over the line. You know, they have a knack for bringing in excellent players who will be, I'm sure, stars of the future. So yeah, for me, I think I'm going to go for a relatively strong bounce back season. And yeah, I've put them in 11th. Okay, moving into the top 10, top half of the table. And in number 10, we have got Crystal Palace. Now, hear me out on this one, because I know a lot of you will be saying that's an absolute joke, but hear me out. Okay, they might lose Mark Guehi to Newcastle. Okay, they might lose Joaquin Anderson to Fulham. However, Oliver Glasner, he is a hell of a coach, and I'm convinced that he is going to work miracles with whichever players he has at his disposal. Okay, as well as the two I've mentioned, Elise's gone to Bayern Munich, but if they keep Eberechi Eze and he can link up with Mateta, who was a standout performer at the end of last season, who had a brilliant Olympics with France, then they will be a really difficult team to beat this season. I'm just telling you, they are one to watch this season, I promise you. Moving on to number 9 then, we have got everybody's favourite East London club. It is West Ham. Much as Tottenham have that sort of rivalry with them, I think they've done probably or arguably the best business over the summer transfer window. Julian Lopetegui has come in and he's clearly told the board who and what he wants, and they've gone out and got them for him. You know, Crescencio Somerville, Nicholas Fulkrug, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Max Kilman, Jean-Claude Todibo. Very, very good signings in there, and I think they can only be better than what they were last season. If it wasn't so competitive with those teams in and around the top 6-7 places, yeah, West Ham fans might fancy themselves for a top 4 charge. I do think that's a bit out of their reach this season, but they will do very well indeed. And in 8th, and it may surprise some of you, doesn't necessarily surprise me, I think I'll be spot on with this, is Chelsea. I just think Chelsea are a big fat mess with what they're doing in the transfer window. I don't necessarily rate Enzo Maresca all too highly. I think they're just signing way too many players. I'm not sure whether they'll get the players they want to out of the door, and it could just lead to internal issues. You know, they outed one of their own in Conor Gallagher, barred him from training, sent him to Atletico Madrid to try and get a transfer through. And now we're not even sure whether that deal is going to get done. So if they do that to one of their academy graduates, think about if they can't sell the likes of Sterling or Madueke or whoever it is they're trying to get rid of to make room for the incomings in perhaps João Felix or Pedro Neto, etc. They have some good players in that team, there's no doubt in it, and they will probably put on some good performances, but I just think it's all too much. It's too much of a mess to keep held together for Maresca, and for that reason, I've put them in 8th. In 7th, I've gone for Newcastle United. Very, very difficult decision with this one because they could very easily finish higher. No European football for Eddie Howe's men this season. Could be a huge benefit to them. Alexander Isak is an excellent player. Harvey Barnes. They're getting Sandro Tonali back. Bruno Guimaraes is still there. They have a very, very excellent squad. Yeah, I think 7th will be the lowest they will finish. They could get into that top 5, top 4 spot if they have an excellent run at one point throughout the season, but I've gone with 7th for now. In 6th, I've gone for Aston Villa FC. Unai Emery getting at it again. I think with Champions League football this season, they will struggle a lot more because they cannot rotate their team like perhaps they maybe did in the Conference League last season. They will have to go Hail Mary in every single game if they want to get through that new format of the league table. In the Champions League, they have made some good signings. They have, of course, replaced Douglas Luiz with Amadou Onana, which is a good move for them. Of course, they've sold Moussa Diaby. I'm not sure if they've necessarily brought in a replacement yet, but we know what the likes of Ollie Watkins can do. Yeah, they're doing very, very well. I just see a slight drop-off with that extra European football this season. So, let's wait and see. At 5th spot, and just missing out on top 4, I have gone with Manchester United. For me personally, I don't necessarily rate the signings they've made that much this summer. Lenny Yoro, okay, yes, he's a highly rated 18-year-old from the French league, but we don't know if he can do it in the Premier League yet. Joshua Zirkzee's done one decent enough season for Bologna in Serie A. Again, can he do it in the Premier League? Is he going to take a season to settle, maybe like Højlund has done? There's no doubting that they are improving as a squad. They've put their faith in Erik ten Hag. Can he deliver? I'm not necessarily sure. Of course, they have that FA Cup win from May. I'm going to go for them to have a better season than their 8th place finished, but just missing out on top 4. In 4th, I've gone for the mighty Tottenham. Ange Postecoglou's second season in charge. Dominic Solanke is going to score an absolute ton of goals for Tottenham. I have no doubt about it. I really hope so for £65 million anyway. A lot of the academy players coming through and showing they're pretty decent in pre-season this summer as well. I do think that Tottenham still have work to do in the transfer window. Maybe a backup left back, maybe another central midfielder and a winger if possible. I do feel like we need that winger at least if we want to progress and challenge the teams ahead of us rather than the ones behind us. Having said that, I'm hoping to see an improvement from Tottenham, particularly in the cup competitions, and I'm going to go for them to sneak back into those Champions League places in Ange's second full season. At 3rd, I've gone for Liverpool. Now, I wasn't sure how Arne Slot would sort of fill straight into that hole left by Jurgen Klopp in Liverpool, but having watched some of their pre-season games, they look very, very sharp, and it's completely changed my perspective of how I think they're going to do. I think they haven't done anything in the transfer window, but the players have taken to Slot and his tactics and his methods instantly. We know Liverpool fans are very patient with their managers, and I think that will reap the rewards for him, and it could do it as early as this first season. We will have to wait and see, of course, but they will be strong. They will be strong, that is for sure, and I'm going to go for them not to quite challenge the top 2, but to finish in a 3rd place, maybe quite comfortably to Tottenham and below as well. So we are down to the top 2, and I don't think I would ever have it in my heart to have and say that Arsenal are going to win the Premier League, and that is the case this season again. I think they're just going to fall short under Mikel Arteta again. I think they're going to come second. Calafiori, sort of the only significant signing they've made so far this summer. It looks like they may be bringing Mikel Merino in from Spain as well. Decent enough additions. They're building a little bit, but I think for Arteta it's just about continuity and momentum and just tweaking slight things to try and be that fractionally closer to City this time around. However, while Pep Guardiola is in charge at Manchester City, I just cannot see anyone else winning the Premier League. He just has it nailed down to a T. And for that reason, of course, they are top of my list. They could go, and I think they will go, for 5 in a row, unprecedented, historic, just probably the best team in Premier League history. And I think you'd struggle to argue with it. I mean, I'm sure people will, and that's absolutely fine. But City are City are City. They'll win silverware, very likely win the league. And if they didn't, I would be absolutely shocked. So yeah, I'm going to go for Arsenal second and City right at the top, winning the league again. Before I go, I want to give a special shout out to the Golden Boot winners and Golden Glove winners for the upcoming season. I think it's fair to say Erling Haaland is probably going to win the Golden Boot again. I think it would make it 3 seasons in a row. The tools around him at City are just absolutely insane, especially with De Bruyne probably staying fit for more than half a season this time round. So for Golden Boot, it's probably going to be Erling Haaland. And for Golden Glove, I am going to go for David Raya of Arsenal. So I think that would make it a repeat of the winners from last season. I just think Arsenal's defence is insane. Man City's attack is insane. And, I looked down the list of Premier League teams in the table and I struggled to see who else is going to pit them for it. I'm not saying that David Raya is the best goalkeeper, but I do think he has the best defence in front of him. And for that reason, I think Arsenal will probably keep the most clean sheets again. So there you have it. Those are my 2024-25 Premier League predictions. Let me know what you think. What ones do you agree with? What ones do you disagree with? Don't be nasty in the comments. Just tell me what you think if you don't agree with me. Do you agree with the Golden Boot and Golden Glove winners as well? Let me know. I really hope you enjoyed this video. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you once again for all your support. But for now, that's all from me. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the return of Premier League football. And as always, come on you Spurs.